In today's video, we'll talk about how George Russell has questioned Mercedes' strategy after the Japanese Grand Prix, and how he's extremely confident about their car design for 2023. Mercedes hasn't been at its best. It's made mistakes, but it seems like the team's ready to enter the 2023 season with a bang. So stay until the end of the video to learn all about it. First up, George Russell questions Mercedes' strategy after a frustrating race in Japan. George Russell has been known as Mr. Consistency throughout this season. That's because no matter what happens, he mostly finishes between 5th and 3rd. That's the anchor Mercedes needed, especially since Lewis has been all over the place lately. Unfortunately, in Japan, he finished 8th, leaving the Mercedes driver frustrated with the outcome. He believes that his team's strategy call cost him a chance of another top 5 finish. The bloke started in P8, gaining a place right at the start, after Carlos Sainz crashed into the barrier before the race was red flagged. After the restart, Russell was among the racers who came into the pit lane to make a switch from wet tires to intermediates. Seems like any other normal day, right? Well, no. What happened was, Mercedes double stacked him behind his teammate Lewis Hamilton. Since that made him lose a lot of time in the pits, he dropped down the order to 14th place. Now, here's the thing. He still made it back to P8, so he didn't finish outside of points. But he feels if Mercedes hadn't done what they did, he had a good enough drive to finish in the top 5, maybe even get a podium. Lewis finished 5th in that race, and considering how Sainz crashed, it would have been an excellent opportunity for Mercedes to get a little closer to Ferrari in the constructor standings. Currently, the team is 67 points behind Ferrari. The Italian blokes are most likely coming second, but this botched strategy call made the race for second place quite boring. Next up, what did Russell say exactly? Talking to the press, George stated, "We need to review what went on. I was right behind Lewis and double stacking. I was just going to lose all the positions." Not really much more to say. It was a very frustrating afternoon. He also mentioned that he could have probably fought for P5 and that his race was actually quite enjoyable. He made overtakes and had a darn good race, so he doesn't believe Mercedes made the right call. At the same time though, let's talk about whether he would have even made it above P5. Hamilton was fighting tooth and nail with Esteban Ocon for P4, but he just couldn't do it. Nothing wrong with Hamilton's driving, it's just the W13 doesn't have the pace. If you saw the race, you know what we're talking about. Its straight line speed is abysmal to say the least. Maybe Russell's being a little too optimistic. He was later asked about how conditions had been in the opening stages, and the Briton stated it was extremely tough for drivers to know what their driving limit was. He's right. Looking at what happened to Sainz, it makes absolute sense. He further elaborated that the grip itself was fine. It wasn't too bad. It was the visibility that was terrible. He feels that these new cars bring up more spray, and we don't know if that's true or not, but maybe they do because the Japanese Grand Prix was anything but calm. It was by far one of the most chaotic races of this season, maybe tied with Monaco. Moving on, George Russell is confident over 2023 car design. Will Red Bull have a target on their backs next year? Everybody will have a target on their backs next year. This chilling exchange happened between an interviewer and the Mercedes boss Toto Wolff at the end of Drive to Survive Season 4. He wore a black sweater and looked like a Bond villain. Well, that kind of backfired, didn't it? Because Red Bull is in a comfortable lead over Ferrari, and Mercedes, let's just say the team isn't doing too well. 3rd in constructors, 4th and 6th in drivers. Those aren't Mercedes stats, are they now? The German team has endured a hard season under 2022's new design regulations. Despite that, no doubt Russell has impressed us all in his debut with the team. Now, the bloke has revealed a new philosophy that Mercedes is working on towards their 2023 car design, which has left him confident of a return to contention next year. Looking at the standards set by the team itself, Mercedes has had a dismal 2022 campaign. Red Bull and Max have been on another planet. Even their number 2 driver is 2nd in the Drivers' Cup. The problem here is, a series of performance issues with the W13 has left the team without a win going into the final 4 races of the season. We all saw what happened in Japan, and we all saw them fall away from Ferrari in the battle for 2nd in the constructor standings in Singapore. But how do they plan on fixing that? Let's find out. Up next, how does Mercedes build a better car? According to Russell, they have a philosophy that they'll adopt in the development of their new car. This is the right way to go according to him. While their plan is great, he doesn't believe they'll achieve it. He's confident that they can achieve it, but he's still not 100% sure. The point is, he believes a target has been set and that he, Lewis, and the rest of his team will work tirelessly to make sure it's achieved. Mercedes was the talk of the town in preseason testing for this year when their car was built under a radical new design. It didn't have side pods. Yet, every other rival did. It was a gamble that they took, and well, as as we can see, it didn't pay off. Now, Russell appears to suggest that Mercedes will go in a different direction than what's expected. We don't know what they plan to do, but we're darn excited to see what innovative philosophy he's going on about. It's all data-driven. They've looked at millions of data points and have concluded a thorough analysis to ensure that they have the best car next season. This time, they might even go over the budget cap for the development, but we'll get to that at the end of the video. What's more, the team is using their past mistakes to stop making new ones. As we've already mentioned, it's all going to be data-driven. Mercedes will analyze the races where they've been competitive, races where they've been slow, and races where they've crashed out. Throughout the analysis, they'll then learn how their performance has been between high and low downforce circuits, and what changes they can make for each Grand Prix. When George was asked to elaborate on this further, he said he doesn't want to go into too much detail because it's something they've worked very hard to understand, and is something that'll give them an advantage next year. After all, he doesn't want to benefit his rivals. Every single car is different. Every car reacts differently. Mercedes tried to do their best this year, but they haven't been protected from unexpected, unwanted surprises. For example, earlier in the season, their car had some terrible porpoising issues. This even led to a heated meeting between the team bosses, and it gave Hamilton terrible back pain. Even now, they haven't fixed the issue. They've just reduced its impact by lowering the ride height of the car. While it seems like Mercedes has an excellent strategy on its hands, it can still be surprised by its car later on in the 2023 season. Because folks, this is the era of budget caps. They can't just throw $400–500 million on a car and make it the fastest. Or can they? Finishing up, if Red Bull isn't properly penalized, Mercedes will also go over the budget according to Toto Wolff. The Bond villain is back at it again. Of course, he's angry that Red Bull went over the budget. The budget cap for 2021 was $145 million, and it turns out Red Bull overspent that. It was a minor overspent, so less than 5%. But hey, 5% of $145 million equals a whopping $7.25 million. And as we all know, each million spent on a car shaves off 1/10 of a second. Considering the tiny margin Lewis Hamilton lost the 2021 championship by, it's no surprise Toto is pissed off. Now, the problem here is, Red Bull should have its title stripped. However, many F1 fans and pundits speculate that nothing will happen. The team will just be slapped with a fine and that's all. And if that ends up happening, the Mercedes boss is ready to bring out the big guns. Everybody's aware of how much money they've got. Wolff has now stated that he's ready to go over the cost cap if Red Bull gets away with just a fine. He even stated Mercedes is okay with paying fines if they have to get back on the top. So that's one other way Mercedes plans to develop a car. Stay tuned to find out what penalty Red Bull receives for their actions. That's a wrap for this video. Do you guys think 2023 is Mercedes' year? If not, do comment below and let us know what other team you're expecting to dominate. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more. See you in the next one.